What's up, my people? Welcome back. My name is Bird, BYR to the D, 3 always, and Kajin. And let me tell you what, I'm happy that you joined me today. We already started a discussion on what this is going to be like, these fireside chats, and away we go, you know? So, today, I want to talk about Star Wars. Now, I want to let you know I haven't seen the new Star Wars, I haven't seen it at all. Um, I wasn't interested in seeing it yet simply because I'm going to let it come out in video. But we can digress and retract enough to talk about the last couple. And I want to show you how they relate with incidences going on in today's world, everyday life. Okay? I've got some notes on here, so I'm going to avert my eyes down here and let's get started. Fireside Chats, everyone. Fireside Chats. So, how Star Wars relates to conspiracy theories. Conspiracy theories. You know, that word we like to use, but we don't really like to give any weight or merit to. See, conspiracy theories means a theory is a hypothesis, your best guess. And a conspiracy is to conspire, to come together. So when you have a conspiracy theory, you have your best guests, your best ideas, your best mental follow through into a subject conspiring. It's not about people conspiring against you. A conspiracy theory is literally you trying to figure some stuff out, and you got other people that agree with you. Word on that. So, I'm going to run through a quick few things on how Star Wars relates to today's conspiracy theories. Number one, did you know that the Death Star, the main device that they use as a location to hide the Empire and also control the worlds, more than one, plural, the worlds that are in whatever solar systems that they need to control under their empirical role. You know, the Death Star was modeled after something, and it's round and it's large, so it's pretty good guess to assume that it's modeled after a planet-like object. Well, it just so happens that with some of the satellites we send out to do deep space exploration, like out towards Mars, Pluto, Saturn maybe, we've seen some things that we didn't know existed. And one of those factuals is the fact that Saturn has a couple moons, and one of them just happens to look like the Death Star. I'm letting that sink in. Now, I don't have pictures up right now. This isn't that kind of video. But you can go Google anything I'm telling you. Don't want to use Google? Ask Jeeves. Don't want to ask Jeeves? Bing it. Bingo. Now you know. All right. Number two. Jar Jar Binks from the first Star Wars is a hybrid of a creature that is, he kind of looks like a dog. He's tall and he's aloof in his walk and mannerisms, and he's a little sloppy, and they make him seem like he's ignorant because he's like almost like a yokel. Look it up, yokel. They just gave him Goofy from the Mickey Mouse show. They gave him Goofy-like qualities, okay? But then he's an aquatic creature. He's an underwater creature. He's a creature that actually comes from a civilization underwater. And we know this when he takes Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon Jinn back underwater to go to his civilization to discuss things they need to discuss to further along certain issues, which we'll get to. But Jar Jar Binks, and I'm going to read this to you directly, literally lives in underwater cities. Now, we have underwater cities here in our world already that a lot of people are not aware of. You didn't know that? Yeah, they're called sea labs. There are other things, but you can look this up. It's public knowledge, these basic parts. They do a lot of experiments. They do a lot of testing. They do a lot of whatever underwater. And underwater, they've tried to figure out, you know, the easiest way to keep your secrets The secret is not let people see them, right? That's just basic. So build some labs under the ocean. Now, you don't know what's happening in those labs. You have no control over it. Such is life. How do you know? How do you know these things exist, and how does this have to do with today's culture if it's in a movie? Well, here's what I'm getting at. They use pop culture to let you know a few things. They do. John Legend sang some verses in a song, and the song was quite popular. And John Legend said, "My head is underwater, but I'm breathing just fine." Now, you can look up the song, but those lyrics stand out on their own. He's telling the woman he loves, "You're crazy, but I'm out of my mind." There's a reason for that, because in these underwater labs, they literally chip people, put chips into the head, into the back of the skull, and these chips can, at the ultimate purpose, control the body of the individual they're implanted in. But what they're meant to do is aid in whatever their process is for the reason for inputting them. You don't know why. I don't know why, because I'm not in these places. Ice Cube, he sang a song back in the day, said, "You can bet I'm a vet. I can dance underwater and not get wet." So in music, we have two mentions of being underwater without taking the typical damages which being underwater could cause the human body. There's also a culture swag thing moving. There was a group that came out of Japan. It was two Japanese and a Korean kid, if I remember correctly. Keith Ape. And it was, the name of the song was Itji-Ma. And in Itji-Ma, they literally say they're the underwater squad. And then they go on to say killer whale to represent black and white. Now, if you know what black and white represents, you know that goes back to the Illuminati and the two pillars of Joshin and Boaz, which are dark and light, truth and not. It's the ultimate of polar opposite extremes. It's Illuminati. Now, all that had to do with Jar Jar Binks. Really? Really? And then you have Attack of the Clones, which is a movie. And that's kind of funny because now all of a sudden, through a guy named Donald Marshall and a few others, which I can name at another time, they're talking about how they're creating clones, they're creating people, they're creating individuals that are not quite who you think they might be. And they're doing it with celebrities. They've been doing it with politicians. Even leaders in other countries. Gaddafi, they claim. We know that Hussein, not Barack Hussein, excuse me, strike that from the record, that Saddam Hussein back in the 90s was known to have multiple what they call doppelgangers, which is people that look like him. But there's been claims that he had clones as well. And we know this in Star Wars because Obi-Wan goes to a planet with these tall, long-necked aliens, and it's perpetually raining and they're underwater, technically, which goes back to what I said, underwater labs. And in these labs, they have tons of clones, and they've cloned them from a single fighter named Boba Fett. Now, Boba Fett, when he gave up his DNA to be cloned, they gave him a single son, and that's Jango Fett. And I might be saying it backwards, but you get my point. Jango might be the father, Bubba might be the son, but either way, one person gave up his identity to a culture of scientists, and they made clones of him to make an army of one of the greatest space fighters. And he took one of his clones on to be a son so that he could have a son. Now, moving on. It's just Star Wars. Now, let's talk about the Force. You know, Luke Skywalker goes to meet Yoda and finds out the story of his past, and that, you know, he must face his father and use the Force to do so and not go to the dark side with hatred and anger. And the Force is kind of like telekinetic abilities. It's your ability to control things with your mind in connection with the surrounding energies of the environment. It's codependent in its own form. You're reaching out for something to help you, and it's using your physicalness to achieve things. And it's a connection. You know, if you want to, this is how I was looking at it. If you want to, you could look at those who believe in the Force as believing in God, a godlike force. And then you could believe that the Jedi is the follower of the Force system. Could call them Christians or believers of said followed religion. And then we go to the Sith. The Sith are the anti. They still use the Force, but it's the anti. It could be of Lucifer's reign, of Satan's domain. So it's a story of religion when you break down to it. And I'm going to stop right here because my timer's telling me I'm running out. But we'll connect with this later on. But I want you to sit back and think about a few things that I've said already. You know, they do use our culture to let us know things.